welcome to the TG podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today again. We might be one day late, but that is something that we are going to institute for the future, but we will still be weekly. I'm here with my friend Tyler. Tyler, how are you?
Good, Sven. How are you doing? Yes, we're trying a new release time. I don't know if that's worth apologizing for. I hope that it is. There's a lot of interest in the podcast, which we appreciate. The word keeps spreading, which we appreciate. You telling your friends about it. So please keep at it. Don't stop on account of us. But yeah, just because of scheduling things, we might start doing it Monday evenings instead of Sunday at midnight.
Nice.
Should we explain what this podcast is, Sven? Because there seems to be some confusion, which I enjoy. I enjoy the confusion on YouTube, but you do not.
I enjoy any comment. We got a comment. I will watch your intelligent film analysis all day, but can't understand a visual scene analysis via audio podcast. Are you describing the cuts? And how can it help to hear about a visual art? Any reason you won't make videos of the podcast? Which is a comment that was left underneath a video of a podcast of one of our scene.
Well, it's worth bringing up too, because the point of what you're listening to is we look at a different scene each week from a film, sometimes popular films, sometimes innovative films, sometimes overlooked films, and we look at it in terms of editing, and naturally, as editors, other things are going to come up. So we're analyzing the clip and looking at it, really the technique and craftsmanship that was used to put it together and dissecting that. And we're going to end up talking about other stuff because as an editor, you pay attention to other stuff, right, Sven?
That's right. And you might have heard the saying that good editing is actually invisible, and it's hard to tell it even if you're looking at it. So why not just listen to good editing, and then it might be even easier to figure out what's working. Maybe. I don't know. But the thing is, I think it actually might be beneficial to look at a scene in a podcast, and the way that we're doing it, it's kind of like an audiobook. We let it play, you get to hear some of the important lines, and then we're describing the scenes as you were asking. Yes, we're describing some of the important moments. But we also want to encourage you to take a look at the scene before and or afterwards, and then have sort of a new take on it. It's, in a way, I think this podcast is meant to open your eyes.
And that's one of the great things about working as an editor. No matter what you want to do, starting out as an editor, editing your own stuff, such an invaluable thing to do because you really get to learn a lot about, the mistakes that you make, how to be more efficient when you're on set, ways to set yourself up, what the real goal of capturing what is going on is. It's not about capturing something that's been rehearsed to perfection that you're just going to then cut together like with the cookie cutter. It's about creating opportunities so that you can sculpt and craft it in the editing room. Something you can see Sven doing. You can actually see him doing it now, which is really cool because your whole YouTube channel started with you making videos of you working on the film Flesh and Blood, and now you're doing that again with the new film you're working on, and I believe it's only on Patreon for now?
It's only on Patreon for now. There'll be some videos on the main channel about like workflow and some bigger themes, but the day-to-day decision-making of cutting specific scenes and making those choices, how you get into one, how do you shape an actor's performance, make character choices. All that stuff can be seen on Patreon.
It sounds like we're pushing it, but I just honestly think it's cool. And the students I've shown Sven stuff to, it's very eye-opening in terms of what an editor does, the liberties that an editor can take when attempting things, the liberties a director can take with their own material to discover it in the editing room. So it's very worth checking out if you're interested in filmmaking and want to be able to maximize what you're doing with the footage that you're shooting.
Yeah,
I feel like we kind of got away there because I got excited that you're working on a new film, posting stuff. But
well, I'm going to bring it back right now. I also wanted to quote someone that I heard over the week at Lazy Puck. His name is Michael Cioni. He's kind of a visionary post-production person, and he was talking about the importance of audio. And since we're talking about audio podcast and should we be looking at scenes and editing and all that stuff, maybe that might be fitting here. He said that it's you can't make a horror movie without the sound. Like you can play a horror movie, turn the sound off, and it's not going to be scary. But you might be afraid of a comedy if you change the sound, make it sound like a horror movie. Did I make my point swiftly?
Yeah,
Not sure. So,
That's his point, but
the point being is that audio design is a bigger deal than we give it credit in terms of making scenes work. And so that's another reason why I think it could be really interesting to listen to iconic scenes and then talk about them.
yeah, we could purely just turn this into a podcast dissecting the sound design of iconic scenes.
Should we read a couple more comments from the last podcast?
Yeah, but just let me clarify real quick with the comment. Make comments on the podcast. It's fun. We like getting feedback. It's a little tough on the last one. Dennis makes these really great videos for us based on the recordings that we do that visualize it, which is very helpful, I think. But because of the nature of the last podcast that we did, which I thought was, one that could benefit from a lot of feedback, obviously it was a little harder to get any because we didn't have a YouTube video for it. But I went off for a little while about how much we appreciate the fan base of the show and the types of comments we get and how thoughtful they are and how there's kind of like an inherent censoring that goes on. And then immediately within like the first 4 minutes of the 8th grade video going up, I was like texted Sven. I was like, oh God, maybe I was wrong. But then looking back at it, the same thing I said happened. The kind of like atrocious, borderline trollish comment, was like rightfully pushed back on by a representative group of people that kind of helped put it in context, and then other comments floated to the surface. So
yeah, I thought it was a really
cool.
interesting interaction on that video where somebody made what I would consider kind of a very harsh, hateful comment, and people sort of responded to it where it was, I'm sort of glad that happened and that the community sort of took care of it. So
yeah,
there was no need for us to step in. Like for a moment I was considering, this is kind of, that's borderline, I don't know, so it's crossing a line. Should I take this, remove this comment? And before I had to make any decision, it was put into context.
Yeah.
So if
the pushback makes it more meaningful.
Yeah, if you want to know what we're talking about, you should go and check out that bonus video about 8th grade, the video analysis. It's on the YouTube channel This Guy Edits, and you can scroll through the comments.
One other thing, if you do want to just interact directly about just the podcast, then you can go to
thisguyedits.com/comment. So another comment about the 8th grade video was from a person that said that he actually worked on the film. And I thought it was really nice to have somebody from the crew comment. And Back-to-Back Games, that's his or her name, wrote, I worked on this film as a grip. Bo Burnham. Bo came and chatted it up with me during a break while shooting. He was cool, seemed really consumed with trying to get it right. All in all, he made a good first impression, which is not usually the case when dealing with people in the film business. Nice. Huh. Bo is a nice person, and I appreciate that somebody reported that back to us.
And then speaking of connecting with the zeitgeist and pushing conversations forward, we have this week's clip, which we will be looking at, which is from Black Mirror, which obviously we've been fans of for a while, but this was a new alleged groundbreaking episode of Black Mirror in which we did a choose-your-own-adventure style of storytelling. And I only say allegedly because the funny thing I would like to point out with this is that no one has talked about it or discussed Steven Soderbergh's HBO series Mosaic.
Right.
Which was very similar, which is so funny how this, I mean, Black Mirror is obviously a great show, but just how this, absorbs the zeitgeist and was done, on a platform in a way that I think maybe is a little more accessible or, people could get into it much quicker with this than they could with Mosaic in terms of just usability.
I hadn't seen it on HBO, but I knew about it, so I'm glad you brought it up because I totally blanked on that. So how did it work on HBO? How did they make that work?
Yeah, I meant to watch it last night and didn't, so
never mind.
You should just steer away from it.
Okay, scratch all that. Yeah, so we're talking about Bandersnatch, which is an interesting title, and there's a reason for it if you dig deep into it. It's a 2018 psychological thriller interactive film in the science fiction anthology series Black Mirror. It was released on December 28, 2018. Kind of like like the release was super fast. I didn't know anything about it, and a day later it was out there and everybody was talking about it. At least that's what it was for me.
Yeah, I was home on break, and same thing as with the last Christmas episode of Black Mirror. It was suddenly, rumors had been there, and then it was just, hey, it's happening, it's out, midnight.
Yeah.
So it's really fun how they can market themselves without marketing it at all. It's purely word of mouth, it seems like.
Totally. I mean, it's been in the works for many years. I think they started working on it in 2017 when Netflix had several interactive projects for children underway, and they were looking for something for the adult market. But it took a while to figure it out, and the creators of Black Mirror for some time thought this isn't going to work out. But then they sort of found a really meta story where viewers can make decisions for the main character, who is a guy who's adapting a fantasy choose-your-own-adventure novel into a video game in 1984. It started to click.
So this is something that the platform brought to it. Like Netflix wanted this. It wasn't the Black Mirror team that wanted to do it.
Yeah, it was sort of Netflix was experimenting with different formats for children, and they thought, okay, let's try this for the adults as well, and they proposed this to them to develop, and it took them a while to wrap their head around it.
Wow, interesting. Yeah, I wonder what House of Cards would have been.
Yeah,
that was the fallback option. Choose the Spacey story or Robin Wright.
Yeah, they're reporting that it took basically as much production time as doing 4 regular episodes, and it's one of the reasons why the new season is pushed back by a little bit, but it's still supposed to come in 2019.
Interesting. And apparently there's 5 hours of material, I heard?
Let's take a look. There are 150 minutes of unique footage divided into 250 segments. So
wow.
The quickest path ends after 40 minutes. The average viewing is 90 minutes.
Whoa. Yeah, I thought I'd explored it pretty well, but it turns out there's all kinds of different variations.
Yeah, just going through some other interesting facts. There's a bunch of hidden Easter eggs in there. There is one ending in there that you can't see when you watch it for the first time, apparently. You have to have gone through one path in its entirety before this ending opens up. Some people believe there are 5 main endings. The producers report that there are a total of 9 different endings that you can get to. Somebody on Reddit made this incredible flow chart where she or he just tracked every possible choice that you made and what happens to it. I'll leave a link on our Reddit website on there so you can check it out. It's really cool. And I really like how we get into the film, which is like at the beginning, the choices that you make are not really that impactful, and you get comfortable with the making decisions. Like it was kind of stressful at the beginning what do? Well, we don't want to screw up. So you have to, for example, choose the type of cereal he's going to eat in the morning. And it really doesn't make a big difference for the rest of the story, but it's good to get you started.
Yeah, yet, although in the version I watched, that cereal moment, what's going on outside, ends up being really important to...
Yeah, it does keep track of your choices, and it does have an impact down the road. Like, I remember somewhere vaguely that logo showed up of the cereal box somewhere as well, like in a TV commercial or something in the background.
Yeah, and then like the next choice is just what music he's listening to, which... When I got sent back, I had to rewatch it and with the different music choice. So it always kind of seemed like there's a direction it wanted to go.
Yeah.
But I guess not. I guess there's a whole different ending you can have.
It is interesting that they sort of had to rework the back end of Netflix as well in terms of how they cage movies. So, for example, you make a decision and they wanted it to be as seamless as possible, so you don't really notice that there's no reloading going on or so. So they were constantly caging 2 different versions of the film in the background so that it just was smooth. Which I felt pretty smooth to me how these decisions were made. I mean, there was always a pause for you to take a moment to make that decision, about 10-15 seconds or so. But it still felt like we are like in the story. It didn't feel like, oh, now we're in pause, nothing is moving. The characters were still there. They were like thinking or doing something where it felt like we're still in the story, yet we have control at this moment.
Right. And the other thing that's interesting is that it kind of reminds me to an extent how Westworld, I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a parallel to Westworld in the way that, Netflix released this whole thing about they statistically the amount of people that chose the Frosted Flake type cereal over the Sugar Puff type cereal.
Oh.
And it was like 75%. So there's this entire absurd almost marketing end to it of being able to study people. But again, I was watching it with my family, which was an interesting battle royale of making those choices. And yeah, it was just like a really interesting experience. Like I wonder what it would have been watching it by myself. But now they have this information just based on nothing, like which cereal people prefer.
Yeah,
it seems like almost an interesting way for a company like Netflix to study
data,
desires and impulses.
Yeah, to deal with data, which they're doing anyway. And
right,
it's happening.
Well, no wonder they pushed it. Of course, this was their idea. Yeah, because underneath it, because obviously their algorithms have served them very well in terms of knowing what shows to buy and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I read an article that Netflix changes the thumbnail of a video based on who's watching. Mm-hmm. So you can see the same show, and they're pushing either the sex angle of a film or the fear or the horror or whatever based on films that you like. And
right.
That's crazy with the detail or the way that they come up with thumbnails for the films. It's all, the first path is all done by a computer that just goes through a movie and is, I guess, looking at every frame and deciding like, okay, here's a face with eyes that seemed to really work in the past, so we're going to pick that as an option. And then they just whittle it down, and then at the end it's a designer who then puts it all together. But they're already massively using the data that they're getting every day through their viewers to do what every platform is to figure out ways to keep you longer on the platform. The longer you stay, the more power they have, because attention is a commodity. It's the most valuable commodity of our time. The more eyes they have, the longer, the more powerful they are as a platform.
Yeah, and then it's interesting what's going to happen when Disney begins to challenge them with their own streaming service, Warner Brothers streaming service. It'll be very interesting when we have like all that content that's available from when Netflix just ends up with its own stuff that it's made.
Yeah.
Because it has the power and advantage of like knowing what we want. Because I'll see thumbnails where it's like, really? Like John C. Reilly has a bit part in that movie. And yet I'm looking at a thumbnail where he's the star. Yeah. And it's hard not to click it. But the other thing that's weird about Netflix is I don't know if Netflix knows the movies that I like, because if I'm watching something on Netflix, it's because I didn't bother seeing it in theaters. Right. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it doesn't really know my taste, and yet I realized it knows what I'm going to watch on Netflix. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's a weird, I don't know, catch-22 or something like that, where they don't know what I would really love to see, what I will leave my house to go see.
Right.
But they do know what I'll watch already in it.
Yeah. Well, there was also an interesting article about that Netflix has a big weakness that they need to fix, which is that most of the content that people are actually watching on Netflix, they haven't created. They've licensed it. For example, The Office is one of the biggest shows, or Friends. And that they're facing the big challenge now that all the other studios obviously have woken up. They're doing their own streaming services, and they're now, when these licenses expire, will most likely not give Netflix a chance to bid on them again. And I mean, Netflix is aware of that and has been aware of this for years, and that's why they're pushing so heavily to create original content. But when you look at what's being watched, they haven't really cracked the code yet. Most of the original shows are not as successful as some of the flagship stuff that they license.
Yeah. there's a few things on Netflix, like Black Mirror is like a really good example. But again, that's not a Netflix original. It became one.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they didn't generate it. So it's interesting. There's a few things, like, obviously we enjoy Mindhunter on this podcast. So that's kind of like a great example of something that's pure Netflix, but I don't know how big of a winner that is for the channel. But we'll see. It'll be interesting to see how it plays out. And it's funny because their business model is purely to get people, to subscribe and stay on, whereas Amazon is a big competitor with deep, deep pockets that wants to operate like a shopping mall, where it wants people to watch movies, go to the mall so that they will then hang out and buy stuff, or be buying stuff and then maybe hang out and watch a movie, vice versa. And then Apple, that's another huge investment in new content, and I think that might just be purely to get more people to use their devices. Yeah. It's just very interesting, the approach of these companies and the benefit of content. So it's an interesting time to be kind of navigating the world after film going was one thing for 100 years. Now suddenly,
yeah,
it's just a good time to have a podcast about it, Sven, tracking this stuff.
Yeah, so it does make sense for Netflix to experiment with a format like this, because it opens up a lot of possibilities. We're like one step away from computer games, right? You mentioned that before, that like there are computer games that are now making obviously more money than films, and they're more immersive, and people are spending more time on that. So this is just a logical next step to maybe make Netflix something where you can have both. You can watch movies, or you can engage with the content more deeply.
And what's interesting about that is two things. One, the CEO of Netflix said that we're not competing with HBO, we're competing with Fortnite. That's who we're losing.
Ooh, interesting.
subscribers to. And also, Amazon just bought a huge platform to become an online gaming service. So, it's just interesting what's going to happen.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a lot of big picture. Should we take a look at this particular scene?
Sure.
So what we usually do on this podcast is we look at one specific scene of an iconic movie and really get into the detail, into the weeds, to see how the actual storytelling is put together, and things that we can take away from it, so that we become more literate in the language of filmmaking. Ooh. So the scene that we picked, I think this is a really good scene for Bandersnatch, because it sort of explains the premise of this whole film, and like the level of matter that's going on here. So when we play it the first time, I think we should like play some of the dialogue here, especially at the beginning, because they're basically explaining the whole premise of the film. But we can then go back afterwards and talk about how was this put together as well.
Mm-hmm. One thing also I want to know is, how many viewings did it take you to arrive at this scene? Because I'd completed the story at the time I went back and kind of wound up in this rabbit hole to find this scene. So was this your first viewing that you hit it?
I feel like it was the second go around.
Okay.
I don't think I was... Like, at the beginning, I was a little confused whether this is over or not, because the credits started playing somehow in the middle of the film for me, I feel like. And which might be something that they stole from Monty Python, I'm not sure. It's kind of something that they did in one of the episodes.
Vice. Yeah.
I'm
kidding.
So it took me a while to figure out, I'm just going in circles right now. I'm exploring, and somewhere along the line, this scene popped up.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I wonder what it would be like to run into this on the first go. And if you did, please let us know. If you, whatever aggressive path you took watching the movie, that you hit this scene on the first go, I would think would be pretty mind-boggling, because it's self-aware in terms of the fact it's on Netflix, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah, it gets even weirder in other scenes once you get past this point. But yeah, let's go ahead. And the way we do it is we're going to start it up and describe what's going on in the scene. So here we go. In 3, 2... So we're in an office.
You're being controlled by someone on Netflix. What is Netflix?
It's like a therapy office, and we have a lot of close-ups.
Some sort of future entertainment thing.
Like a computer game?
I don't know. It's from the 21st century, they said.
Okay, well, let's try to pick it apart logically and see if we can define if this is reality or delusion?
It's not a delusion.
Okay, let's go through it.
It's kind of the first wide shot we see here.
So, all of this is happening to entertain someone. Someone who's controlling you.
Uh-huh.
So, why aren't you in a more entertaining scenario?
What do you mean?
Well, look at you. You're in a small, ordinary room, in an ordinary part of the world, talking to an ordinary woman. If this was entertainment, surely you'd make it more interesting. Inject a little action, isn't that right? I mean, wouldn't you want a little more action?
Okay, so now we're having the choice to say yes or fuck yeah.
Right.
And the choice here on this clip was made for us. Somebody said fuck yeah.
And now...
And just threw the coffee into her face. She's clearing the table. She has
weapons. 2 telescopic batons.
yeah. The next decision is...
Oh, you can leap through the window? I'm curious what that is.
Or you can fight her.
Yeah.
And he chooses to fight her.
Mm-hmm.
And it feels seamless, right?
I don't know. I have any idea what you mean, but...
Like the way that you make your decision and how the story unfolds. There's a big fight now.
Right.
He's throwing her across the table. A dude walks in. He's punching. He's being punched. And the guy's like strangling him, pushing him up into the air. And he has to make a decision to kick his balls or something else.
It's his dad, yeah. Karate chop his dad or kick him in the balls.
And we're choosing to kick the balls. Boom.
And I'm curious what difference that would have had, the karate chop.
So the guy drags him out of the office. We're now in the lobby.
Huh? Fuck's all day, I'm good and proper anyway. I'm being my friend from the future.
And he's screaming towards us, the viewer.
Yeah.
And that's the end of the scene.
I wonder if what would have happened with the other choices, et cetera, et cetera. So there's like 3 different ways that can go just within itself. Or wait, so there's the initial fight, window, kick him in the balls. And is there another one in there that I missed?
Well, fight her,
3.
leap through the window,
Yeah.
and kick his balls. So 3 decisions.
Yeah, okay, so yeah.
3
So there's 3, so
decisions
that's
within
6.
2 minutes and 45 seconds. So this
So
is...
then I don't know if you multiply that, what number you multiply it by itself, or like the different routes that can go just within that. I mean...
Yeah, I mean, there are big moments where you don't have to make a decision, where the story just sort of plays out. But in this scene, like, you are in it. Like, you have to make some quick decisions to decide how this is going to unfold. And
Yeah.
I really...
But I just mean, mathematically, it's a good example of how many different things they had to have filmed just for this one little scene. There's like, 3 decisions we're faced with, so you multiply that by 3. You know what I mean? It just starts branching and branching and branching.
Yeah. And they did do a good job in making these decisions have an impact down the road. So somehow they need to tie it back into a main story. And then certain things might have to change even if it's the same scene. I wonder if there are like certain composites or so, like something in the background that has to change based on a decision you made right here. So it's a really nice attempt at making something that has an impact on story and it's not just a gimmick. And I think for the first 70% of this whole film, it works. I have some problems with the ending in terms of, does it really then make it a different film?
Right. And what's interesting is, and I don't know if you felt this way the way you watched it, and this was definitely to the chagrin of the people I watched it with, family members, I wouldn't go with the violent choice when it was my turn. And yet, no matter what you did, it was always kind of pushing towards, like, for example, the kid is the first one to throw the coffee cup in this fight, and then also was just always pushing towards a murder. Yeah. I'm not going to say who, but it felt, to me, that kind of seemed like I don't know, it just felt odd and unmotivated. You know what I mean? To make that jump to just to killing. and to force the audience to do it is kind of like an interesting. There's like a whole discussion just about that in and of itself in terms of what they're doing with the show.
Yeah.
So it was very, very interesting.
Well, it's interesting. When we watched it the first time, we collectively decided to always make the dumb choice or the evil choice. And it actually paid off quite a bit at the beginning. So it felt like we were rewarded for making him more evil than he was. So, yeah, well, I guess that fits the premise of Black Mirror, right? It's like the darkness to it.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very interesting. Now there's a couple things I want to go back and redo. But so in terms of the editing of this scene, it's very clearly done in a style that is self-aware and sarcastic. And clearly, I mean, just even in terms of the way that the lighting starts to hit them and stuff like that once the fight begins, it's clearly breaking the fourth wall, I feel like. Her having two telescopic batons. I mean, the whole setup of it, everything. So, do you want to talk about the style of this type of fight scene?
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to start at the beginning, actually, which I really love how the scene structurally is worked. You were sort of starting in close-ups. It's not traditionally you might want to go to a master first, go into it. I think it's really smart not to do it here. I like the way that the script is written here. This is exposition that we're facing, but it's done through conflict. Like she's kind of disagreeing with his premise, and then she's questioning it. And really, what's happening is we're learning information, and it is entertainment through conflict. And the combination of just starting really slow and with close-ups, and setting it up, and waiting to go to a close-up when something dramatic is being revealed. So, for example,
I don't know, some sort of
I'm just playing it back. I'm 15 seconds into it.
Like a computer game.
I don't know.
So she says, like a computer game, and he's like, I don't know, and then he like puts his head down at 20 seconds. We're in a wide shot. It makes it puts an emphasis on this moment, on this piece of information. Which is like that's a smart way to tell stories anyway. Somebody asks a question and you don't answer it. You leave it hanging. The question itself is the information. The answer doesn't matter. But by instigating it this way, it becomes dramatic.
Yeah.
And then she draws the next conclusion. Okay, let's assume this is not reality. Wouldn't it be more interesting?
Right.
Okay. So all of this.
I really like how she, as an actress, her body movement, like when she makes the point that she needs to make, she leans forward. It's about to happen. I'm at 50 seconds.
And then that brings us into our choice. So I mean, it's weird because it's the choice is forcing you. Also, they're both affirmational. Yes, and fuck yeah, right? But once,
it's a little stressful and confusing. So at 1:13, she starts leaning forward.
Wouldn't you want a little more action?
And that's when the decision has to be made. And you basically, as you were saying, you have two choices that are not yes or no. You have yes and fuck yeah. What does that tell you? Like, what does that incentivize?
Right. Oh, maybe that's whether he throws the coffee or not. You know?
Yeah.
If he starts it. It's who knows?
It's challenging the audience to go for the big choice, right? That's what happened.
Yeah.
I wonder how many
and then
people
the real
clicked
choice,
yes.
And the real choice to leave is leap through the window.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which I don't know how you go to leap through that window after fuck yeah. It's very interesting. I would be very curious to kind of see the patterns of choices, and I mean, I'm sure there could be a great conversation about this, about how deep you can go and the different things that happen, and maybe it would have been responsible of us to check those out, to fully analyze it. But one thing I'll point out, just in terms of the style of the filming of this kind of self-aware action scene, it reminds me a lot of Hot Fuzz. And I'm sure this will cause a little little controversy. But Hot Fuzz was also English action film, but not really an action film, a comedy kind of spoofing action, which this is more or less doing.
Yeah.
So although it's trying to be like very clearly like Bad Boys 2, it's doing it through a lot of shaky camera movement and zooms and hard lighting and sped up film and stuff like that. Whereas the actual action isn't that impressive. And
Right.
when I walked out of Hot Fuzz, I had to like literally watch scenes from Bad Boys 2 just to see the disgusting actual excess, like the uncoordinated explosions and just the ways that was dumped into it, because that movie and this clip don't really have the ability to deliver really impressive action.
True.
If that makes any sense. It's
True.
not really a Bourne Identity. It's just kind of skirting it. So, I think there's something to study with action films too. And oh man, there's so many different cool ways to film action scenes, and there's some we have that we might look at in this podcast, just dissecting that. But in terms of the actual impact of your action, if you're cheating the audience with it, or if sometimes the spectacle of action movies, if you really deliver on that, that's why the movie is successful, which is interesting.
Well,
Be bad drama, but if you really have that Van Damme doing split kick, then it's people will go see it.
What's great about Bandersnatch is it doesn't have to deliver on spectacle. It delivers on story.
Right.
So, and this scene proves it. It's so simple, and they probably shot this in no time, in half a day, to get this all done. But you're still having the same or even a bigger experience because of this added stress that you are now in charge. You need to make good decisions.
Right.
I wanted to go through this process of making a choice, just like in detail. So what happens here is at 1 minute 10 seconds, she's posing this. If this wasn't reality, wouldn't this be more interesting? And then the decision,
Wouldn't you want
a little bit more action? And then what happens is that at the bottom, the black letterbox sort of moves up, and the two decisions appear, and there's also a timer. So there's like this, what is this? The scroll bar or something that like diminishes, and you have like, it feels like 3 seconds to make a choice. Maybe
right. And the
less.
sound is mounting.
Yeah, and the sound, you have tension going on there.
Yeah.
And then the intercutting between close-ups. So we're right now basically in standby mode in the film. The film is waiting for us to make a decision. But the way that it's put together with this technology that they're using, this where the caging is happening and whatever, they're still cutting. We're intensifying the scene by going from one close-up to the other, to the wide shot, and the decision is made. And then the cut happens. I bet the decision that you make changes the story after the close-up. So at 1:30, we're in a close-up, and it feels like this is where the bump is. And then we're going into the next segment. So it would be actually really interesting to look at the other choice right here, right now, and see when does it change. But I mean, ultimately, we know it's going to change somewhere.
You're saying there's a close-up at 1:30?
I'm saying at 1:30 is a wide shot, and then the next shot is basically the chosen path.
Yeah. Right. Gotcha.
So I feel like
Which is not a close-up.
The standby mode where the film is waiting for you to make a decision, that loop ends at 1:30. Next shot is the new path. And again, if you don't make a choice at all, it's gonna be made for you. That's their way out. Like I remember in old computer games, you wouldn't like the game would not continue until you made a decision.
Yeah, and I'm very curious if anyone ran into this on their first go.
Yes.
I also think it's hilarious you guys got the credit scroll making the bad choices so early, because I'm realizing why. Was it shortly after destroying the computer that happened?
Oh, I don't remember.
That's funny.
That's maybe a downside of the story is like you don't really remember, like it doesn't work as a film where you have some like character arc and some growth and then you maybe take something out of it. Here you just have an experience and it's kind of fun, but in the end it's just a gimmick. It doesn't really matter what happened.
Yeah. Well, my walking away from it, it did kind of feel like it wasn't. It was kind of like, okay, I guess that's over.
Yeah. And the question is, would you do it again? Like, would you watch
Right.
this again?
Well, I would now that we've talked about it. I'm realizing all these, but I just wonder what can be done with this. And I wonder what would happen if it's a show that you're deeply engaged in. Like, let's say it's The Sopranos and it's that final scene and you get to choose A or B.
Yeah.
So I wonder what would happen if it was maybe more limited in the choices, right? Like kind of episodes, at the end of an episode could go one of two directions based on a character's decision. Like you're watching Mad Men and it's like he's either going to walk away from this or he's going to push it and the next episode's determined by that, and you're almost going through whole seasons with that instead of being so interactive, maybe making it broader choices.
Yeah.
I mean, we could speculate forever clearly about this.
It's an interesting question. I think it's something that needs to be discovered. What this is doing is it's sort of setting the bar. It's saying, okay, these are some of the cinematic choices you can make. This is the language that we're developing. But how do you use it to still make dramatic stories that satisfy some of the bigger aspirations that film have in terms of making us be inspired or whatever? That is still out there to be had and to be explored. I think somebody will take this and say, okay, we got to this part, we got so far, now what do we do with this? What is this actually going to become? And that's still open.
Yeah. And I have a feeling Soderbergh figured it all out already and just no one cared or paid attention with Mosaic. But the last thing I'll say, the thing that just I keep going back to is the idea that Netflix brought this to them. The amount, I mean, I can't imagine how mad that could drive someone trying to figure this out. Whereas I'm very curious what it would be if it had someone had organically had a story that would be enhanced by this style. I wonder what the results of that would be. Something that more inherently from the beginning of the process, which maybe we'll get now.
Yeah.
We'll see. I can't imagine what Charlie Brooker was going through with this. But
yeah. So we have this character who's sort of grounded, the therapist who's saying this is not. We're living in this world that is real. This is not a game. And then the resolution of the path that we chose is that she's the one that's like suddenly have these random weapons in her hand. And so she basically contradicted herself in the scene and proven his point that we are indeed in a universe that's controlled by an outer force. So I think within that scene, it's a really interesting character turn and proving a premise.
Right.
That's excellent. The other thing I want to point out is the power of sound here. You already said this is in terms of the production value, not the greatest filmmaking, because it has to be simple and efficient, but it works. Like they're doing a lot of the fighting through the sound, I feel like. It definitely feels like a big fighting scene, while what we see, it's not. Using the shutter speed, the high shutter speed, to make it feel more hectic. And
it's a great way, when you have, limited ability to deliver like a hardcore action scene, you can use sound and do that.
Yeah. And then the last thing I want to point out about this scene is really the pacing. I think it's a very well-paced scene. It starts off super quiet. It gets super hectic. And then whenever there's a point where we have to make a decision, there's these 10, 15 seconds of quietness before it ramps up again and gets loud. And that also helps making it feel like a really dramatic scene.
Yeah. Well, very cool. If you enjoy what you are hearing, we would love to hear your thoughts. We'd love to hear different routes that were taken. I would love to hear anyone that ran into this on their first go through the film, this scene, and what that was like.
Well, I'd be really curious also just to find out if people like have a vision for this. Like, how can this be more than just a gimmick? I feel like it's successful, and it's definitely pushing the envelope, and it's doing the right things to make it not a gimmick, but I think at the end it's still a gimmick. But it doesn't have to be. There's something that can be learned from this.
So it's a very conversation-dependent clip to look at and analyze, so hop on... Where, Sven?
Oh yeah, they can go on thisguyaddis.com/comment.
And let us know your thoughts, or you can comment on the wonderful YouTube video. I think Dennis will be pretty tempted to make on this one. And if you're enjoying the podcast, please let a friend know. We appreciate how the subscriber base keeps growing week to week. And subscribe on whatever you're listening to us on. Maybe it's iTunes, maybe it's Stitcher, maybe it's Spotify. We are here, and we appreciate it. And we would like to thank Curta for the music. And as Sven always says,
happy editing.
There's no sane zone, so put your head between the speakers. There's no sane zone, so put your head between the speakers.
Nice, yeah. I'll definitely put that in before I start ranting.
Cool.
Yes, very good question, Sven. Okay.
All right, I hope we did a good
Stop.
job on this.
I think this is a great one.
Okay, good. Because it's a hip one. All right, turning up.